Bibles this evening, open up with us to Exodus as we continue to go through the Ten Commandments, and we've almost made it. We're on number 9. I don't math very good, but that means there's one more commandment after tonight. I really don't math very good, and if Dustin Russell is watching this, I'm just going to say, yeah, Dustin, there's more than one more sermon after tonight because there's the conclusion to come. You have the opening and the closing. He said, I've preached on the Ten Commandments for the past 24 weeks. That is not true. It's not been true. We've had some times we've had to miss here and there, so maybe it's expanded a little bit. But no, there's only 12 sermons in the Ten Commandment series. And if you don't understand how you get 12 sermons out of the Ten Commandment series, then just come for the next few nights and you'll see what we talk about. And you will be amazed. Probably not, because most of you here probably know what I'm going to tell you in the conclusion of this series. But you will be absolutely amazed what these 10 little commandments have done, not only in the realm of Christianity and God's relationship with man and man's relationship with man, but entire civilizations have been founded upon and followed these 10 simple rules for living. And if God were to publish the Ten Commandments today in book form, it would be a bestseller, and he could entitle it 10 Simple Rules for Living. People would say, man, this is groundbreaking, earth-shattering stuff. But we just ignore it today. We don't think about these 10 commandments. But we're coming into very interesting commandment and an often misunderstood commandment as we come into Exodus 20 and verse 16. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Well, people would look at that and say, well, that means you shouldn't lie. That's a simple thing, don't lie. That's not actually what this encompasses. Yes, it says, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. But when we look at this commandment, we find in Exodus 20 and verse 16, this 9th commandment, it is all about controlling your tongue and what you say, especially regarding other people. And then we'll look at this and say, okay, it's about controlling my tongue and what I say regarding other people. And it says my neighbor. Well, I live in Meadowlands Estates, and we've counted the houses back there because we all keep hoping and praying that the hydrogen plant, before it blows up, that they come and they buy us all out. There's about 50 people in Meadowlands Estates where I live. About 50 houses. That means there's probably, a lot more people than that because there's 4 people that live in my house. So if you do that math, 50 times 4, you do the math. I don't know. What is that, 400 people? So there I have 400 neighbors. That's the only people that I don't have to bear false witness against. That's the only people that live right there beside of me. Kevin Harper used to live right next door to me. I couldn't bear false witness. He moved on the other side of the county. I can do whatever I want to Kevin now, right? No. Your neighbor, Jesus says, who is your neighbor? Everybody is your neighbor. Jesus tells us specifically that we are to treat everyone as if they are our neighbor. So when we look at this, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, it's all about controlling your tongue when talking about other people. And you see, James tells us, of course, that the tongue is a very small member and it cannot be tamed. In Proverbs, we saw that life and death are in the power of the tongue when we went through that series on Wednesday night. The tongue is a very powerful thing. Matter of fact, your tongue and the words that come out of your mouth can either build people up or it can tear them down. And in speaking with us here as God was on the mount and God was telling Moses what we can and cannot do, how we should and should not act towards each other, God himself thought it was very important to say, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Now, the implication of this on the surface level, it does primarily deal with a testimony, like a testimony in a trial. So in other words, when you come up and you stand behind the desk there and the judge is over here, if you're giving a testimony in the trial, some states still have you put your hand on the Bible and raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You say, I do. And then they sit down and the lawyer proceeds to lie for them. That way they don't have to lie. That's why you pay a lawyer, so the lawyer can lie for you, right? People say, oh, well, it's all about a legal thing. It's all about legality. No, that's just the surface level. Yes, God is saying that in any criminal matter or civil matter, whenever you are giving testimony and regarding something between two people, that you should be honest and give truthful testimony. Yeah, God is saying that. But that's not the only thing that we're talking about here. The main root thought in Exodus 20:16 and not bearing false witness against our neighbor is that we are not to destroy anyone's reputation. We are not to destroy the reputation of another individual. It is not incumbent upon us as Christians and believers in God Almighty to set out to destroy someone's reputation. It is not godly to do that. It is not godly to tear people down. Why do you think Christians have such a hard time in politics? Why do we say, oh, we need good Christian politicians, and then the Christian politicians don't get voted in? Why do you think that is? Because if they live by the rule of law, if they actually want to be a good Christian, what will they not do? They won't sling mud and get down in the pits and tear people down and try to destroy someone's reputation to win an election. The people that aren't Christians, they have no problem with that. They have no problem with lying and stealing and cheating and tearing down someone's reputation. You see, that's what we're going to look at this evening, how to handle your neighbor's reputation. That's really what God is telling us here. We must understand something about a reputation. Number one, a reputation is a valuable possession. In Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 1, we see this. With Solomon writing, the wisest man to ever live, Ecclesiastes 7:1, Solomon says, a good name is better than precious ointment. In Proverbs, Solomon also wrote that a good name is to be desired more than rubies or fine gold. A good name, a good reputation is precious. It's valuable. It's the most valuable thing that you possess that you cannot see other than your soul. If you have a good reputation, you are a wealthy individual. All throughout the Bible, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, it's reiterated several times that a good name, a good reputation is valuable. So a reputation, it's a valuable possession. Your reputation determines the level of respect you receive. Your reputation determines the level of respect you receive. No one puts confidence in a dishonest, deceptive person. If there is someone that you know and their reputation is that of a liar, everything they say to you, you just assume is a lie, don't you? Even if it's the truth. I know some people and their reputation is that they're a liar. And if they were to go out and they were to say it's sunny and 92 degrees, I wouldn't believe them until I saw it for myself. There are some people, their reputation is so bad and there's no respect for the way they act in their dealings in business. People say, oh, they're a crook. Did you know they're a crook? Don't have that guy come and build a garage for you because he's a crook. You ever hear that? Your reputation determines the level of respect that you receive from other individuals. Jesus Christ was a man that had a reputation that preceded him. And even the Pharisees and the Sadducees that hated him had to acknowledge over and over that he was an honest man, that he was a good man, that he was a loving man. Because the reputation that he had, it determined the respect that he received from other people around him. So a reputation, if you have a good one, the level of respect you receive is high. If you have a bad one, the level of respect you receive is low. I've known people in my life that they have told me, listen, I will be there by 5 o'clock, and I expect them to be there by 8:30. There are people that I know that I love dearly, that if I want them to be somewhere, I say, if we are going to leave, we're going to leave the house at 6 a.m. I'll tell them we're going to leave the house at 4:30, and they may be there and ready to go by 6 a.m. Me and John Schultz, when we used to have the teens up at Grace Baptist together, if we wanted to leave to go to a function with the teenagers, if we needed to leave the church by 11, we told the kids, you got to be here by 10. The bus is leaving at 10. And they would show up at 10:55. Oh, I'm so glad you're still here. You see, we didn't have much respect for them because the reputation was one that they weren't going to be there. That's a small thing, but just think in all areas of life. That reputation, man, that just determines that respect that you receive. Your reputation determines the level of response that you receive. Every Christian wants to be respected as a Christian and have his or her testimony to be respected and responded to in a positive way. If you have a good reputation, you have the respect that comes with the reputation, but you also receive the responses that you want to because of your reputation. There are people right here in this church that I feel like I could take $1 million in small unmarked bills and put it in a big brown paper bag and hand it to them and say, "Here, hold this for me. I'll be back in 30 years to get it." And their reputation is one that I know that if I came back 30 years later, every dime would be accounted for. I wouldn't have to worry about it. I mean, there are people that are sitting here right now looking at me that I know that. And then also the response that they receive from people because of that testimony is great. If you are trying to go out and witness and tell other people about God and you have a terrible reputation, you will not get the response that you desire or require to be a soul winner. If people do not respect you, if you have a bad reputation, the response you receive will be negative. But if you have a good reputation, the response you receive will be positive. Your reputation is important because what people perceive you to be is usually a fair indicator of who you actually are. Oh, look out. You mean if people think I'm a big fat liar, liar, pants on fire, it's probably because I'm a big fat liar, liar, pants on fire? Maybe. You may have earned that reputation. You ever hear that? My mom used to say, you make your bed, you got to lay in it. It's never made any sense to me growing up. Why do you make your bed anyway? You're just going to mess it up again at night. But listen, the reputation is so important. People perceive you in a certain way. That's why God put a law on the books to protect people's reputations and what we say about them. You see, your reputation is what people think about your character. And what people think about your character is very important to you for the rest of your life. Your own reputation is valuable. Therefore, guard it with your very life and pray that others will do the same. When we talk about this word reputation, you can also just interchange it with testimony. Your testimony, your reputation is very hard to build, but very, very easy to destroy. It only takes one moment of weakness, 1 minute where you're not in control, and your reputation is gone. So that's why God put a law on the books concerning it. Your reputation is valuable. God knows this. So not only is a reputation a valuable thing that you have, it's a hard thing that you have earned. Reputation can be vandalized publicly. That's what this commandment is all about, the vandalization of a reputation. You can tear somebody down, you can vandalize that reputation publicly. It's a serious thing when it happens. When we undermine the reputation of another by the words we speak, we are guilty of destroying that person's respectability and credibility in front of others, and that's a terrible thing to do. When we take it upon ourselves to vandalize someone's reputation by bearing false witness against them, especially, and lying on them, that is a heinous act. A murder is taking place, not a physical murder of a physical body, but a murder of a reputation is a terrible thing. It's a serious thing. There was a woman who was guilty of gossiping about her pastor. She was she was convicted and went to him to apologize. She was convicted by God, and she went to him to apologize to him to try and make restitution for the wrongdoing that she had done by gossiping about him. The pastor graciously accepted her apology and then told her that if she wanted to make it all right again, that she could take a chicken, kill it, pluck it, carry its feathers to the top of the highest building in town, and cast its feathers to the four winds. When she was done, she was to go and collect all the feathers back up that she had thrown from the tallest tower and bring them to the pastor. And he said, that will show your restitution. She said, that's impossible. He said, what you've done to me is an impossible thing to undo. You see, we don't think about it, but it is a serious act. So serious that God tells us we can be forgiven for destroying someone's reputation. We can be forgiven for that, for vandalizing someone's reputation, this serious thing. You can ask for forgiveness, you can be forgiven, but you can never undo the damage that's been done. The bell cannot be unrung, because that's all some people will remember about that person are the lies that you told on them. So not only is it a serious thing, it is a sad thing. It's a sad day when one person thinks that they have to repeat something to another person. This is behavior that is hateful to God and demeaning to men. Let me say that again. When we feel that it is our responsibility to spread gossip, it is a direct violation of God's law. It is insulting to God. And it is detrimental to men. Oh, ain't nothing. I like to get a little tea every now and then. When you do that, you are publicly vandalizing someone's reputation. Well, I only told one person. Do you really think that person you told kept their mouth shut? Honestly. Now, you can tell me a secret. I won't tell nobody. Go ahead. What did you hear about Jordan? Jordan, what'd you hear about Kay? Kay, what'd you hear about Candace? I won't tell nobody. If I'm asking and willing to listen, I guarantee I won't tell somebody. I used to tell my kids that, we didn't want them to kiss. Don't kiss a girl. You don't want to. Olivia I still don't want Olivia to kiss a boy until she's married and like 45. But you say, now listen, when you kiss somebody, it's just like kissing everybody else that person kissed before you. You're kissing that person too. When you run that yap, you're running that yap to everybody else that one person is going to go and run their yap to. You see, it is a terrible thing. There are different ways we can look, several ways in which people are guilty of using their tongues against other people and bearing false witness against their neighbor. Number one is slander. Slander is defined as communication of false statements injurious to a person's reputation. We are guilty of slander when we knowingly lie about another person in an effort to harm their reputation. If you go out and you tell a lie and you know you're lying and you're only doing it to hurt that person, that's slander. Matter of fact, it's not only a violation of God's law, it can be a violation of man's law, and you can be sued for that. Slander is something that a Christian should not partake in. Lying, a false statement deliberately presented as being true. Whether we admit it or not, we are all guilty of lying. 67% of Americans do not believe in absolute truth. Why? Because they cannot tell the absolute truth. We lie and it harms someone's reputation. That's a sin, not only against that person, but also against God. So you have slander, you have lying, you have criticism. Now, we're not talking about constructive criticism is a good thing. Like if I preach and I ask Candace, I say, how'd that go? And she's like, well, it could have been better. This is what you said. This is what you did. That's constructive. I'm not talking about constructive criticism like when me and Jordan and Dustin sit around and we'll talk about sermons that we've preached or ideas that we've had, and we give each other constructive. That's to build someone up. But just to be critical, what we're talking about is statements made about another's actions, ways, and deeds in an effort to hurt their reputation, just to be critical. I love when people will say things like, now I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. Okay. That usually means they're going to hurt your feelings, or they're going to try. I've noticed da 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 da, and they just criticize you and criticize you and criticize you, with no thought of trying to help you, but only to beat you down. That's terrible. Or it's even worse whenever you don't criticize them to their face. I'll tell people, at least have the good grace to talk about me behind my back. When you just come and you're just critical for the sake of being critical to someone else, if I do something wrong and Candace, instead of coming to me, she goes and she says, Jordan, what do you think about David? Boy, he's really letting it slide now. And just being critical, that criticism is just to tear someone down. That's a sin. We should not do that. Does anybody have a mother-in-law? Raise your hand if you have a mother-in-law. I had a great mother-in-law. She's gone on to be with the Lord. She never criticized me that I'm aware of. Matter of fact, I think she liked me, which I took that as a high compliment that she liked me. But some mother-in-laws I hear are quite critical of their daughter-in-laws. Especially, if you married the baby boy like Candace did, God love her heart. I don't think my mom is. I don't think my mom's critical. But there are some mother-in-laws I hear that are very critical to their son's spouse for no reason. Those windows are streaky. Thanks. That chicken was undercooked. Awesome. And it hurts. And then there's some people that, my mother-in-law's coming. But we don't think anything about it when we do it as Christians to other people, do we? That mother-in-law syndrome. Just critical for the sake of being critical. That's a sin in the eyes of God. We're not supposed to do that. So not only criticism, but then also talebearing. This is the practice of spreading gossip and rumors about others. It may be that the rumors are true, but even if that's true, even if the thing is true, it doesn't give you the right to go and tear down someone else's reputation. Talebearing and gossip is hated by God in heaven. He tells us over and over and over again that he does not like a talebearer. Yet that is our favorite pastime within churches, is bearing tales. Insinuation, An insinuation is the practice of insinuating or hinting that something may be wrong with someone's life in one way or another. Now, you all know insinuation, right? You love it. We love to do it as Christians because I didn't say nothing bad, Pastor. Somebody comes up and they say, Did you think Norma Jean did this? And I'm like, well, I'm not saying she did. That's insinuating. Norma Jean's like, I probably did. That's an insinuation. And we think it's a loophole in God's law that we don't say it, but we just insinuate that we agree with it. That's the same thing. That's the exact same thing. We are not to get into the insinuation game and make insinuation and innuendos to where people will look at us and say, hey, did you hear this about Pastor David? And you're like, well, I'm not saying it's true. Insinuation destroys reputation. It's not a godly act. Matter of fact, it's so ungodly that Satan himself employed it against Job. In Job 1 and verse 11, in Job 2 and verse 5, Satan is the one that invented insinuation. Have you considered thy servant Job? He only loves you because of all the stuff you give him, I hear. So whenever you engage in insinuation, you are doing exactly what the devil did to Job. And to do what the devil does is not to be a Christian by definition. Flattery is saying something to a person's face when you would never say it behind their backs. Flattery is usually lying, not when you're flattering someone to build them up, but when you say, boy, you did a good job. And as soon as they walk away, they did a terrible job. That was such a blessing. They walk away, oh. That is false flattery. That's the same as lying. Exaggeration. This is an easy lie to tell when we stretch things out just a little bit and exaggerate it out just a little bit. just enough to make the person's reputation suffer. Silence, when we hear an untruth told and we don't say anything about it, we're guilty of the slander of silence. Well, I didn't say anything. Well, you should have. You know, it's easy to do, isn't it, to just stand by and let other people talk. But I've done it before, and I'll do it again. If I hear someone say something about someone and I know it's not true, I'll say, that's not true. That's a lie. And you shouldn't say that. You mean you say that to people? You'd be surprised what I say to people. I gave up on wanting people to like me a long time ago. I've got a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful children. They tolerate me. I got God. That's all I need. Because when you hear a lie and you know it's a lie and you don't stop a lie, you are perpetrating the lie. You see that silent slander, the slander of silence. You become a party to the deception by not setting the record straight. Loose lips sink ships. That's something that came about during World War II to try and get people to keep their mouths shut. Don't write your girl back at home about where we're at. The reason that Miss Elizabeth doesn't know where her cousin is, why? Because loose lips sink ships. Because he could tell her and then she come here innocently and say, hey, pray for him. This is their coordinates. And then I say it, and then somebody sees it, and a bomb hits them tomorrow. That's what that saying means. That's where that saying came from. It's true of naval vessels. It's true of armies. It's true of the Marines. And it's true of the army of the living God. We are not to do these things. Proverbs 26, 20 through 28 says in particular about these sinful acts. Proverbs 26, 20 through 28 says, where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. So where there is no talebearer, the strife ceaseth. As coals are to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. The words of a talebearer are as the words as they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. Burning lips and the wicked heart are like a potsherd covered with silver dross. He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. Pastor friend of mine was talking about a church member that they had that was a talebearer. And they sowed discord amongst the brethren. That's one of the sins that God says he hates, by the way, if you sow discord amongst the brethren. Anyways, the person couldn't make anybody in the church, turn on the pastor or turn on the deacons, and they couldn't get anybody mad. No, everybody just stopped listening to him. They got mad and they left. You know what the old pastor said? He said, sometimes you thank God for the headlights, and sometimes you thank God for the taillights. If that's your idea of church, to sit around and backbite and gossip and tattletale and talebear and do slanderous things to other people, let me tell you what, there's about 15 other churches within 10 miles of here. I will recommend you to go there because we don't want your kind here. And that's the truth. If you want to see how to destroy a church, you get some old men and old women and young men and young women and young people that sit around and all they do is that'll kill a church quicker than anything. Why do you get so upset about it? Because I've seen it and I hate it and it's disgusting. And it's the same reason that some people say, I'll never go back to church. Why? Because they went to church with a bunch of talebearers. And they broke their heart and they broke their spirit. And then we go and try and get them to come here and they say, well, I can't go to church. Why? Because you know how bad I got hurt at church. God help us. We often say in the medical field that nurses eat their young. Christians devour their babies with loose lips that destroy their ships. It is a sinful thing. When we practice any of these methods in regard to another, we are guilty of sin before the Lord God in heaven. Never once in the Gospels do we see Jesus Christ go to Peter and say, hey, did you hear what I heard about James? Never does Jesus Christ go to his mother Mary and say, let me tell you about these apostles. Never. How then can we say we're Christ-like? When we engage in these sinful acts. Reputations should be vigorously protected. Reputations should be vigorously protected. Confront the gossip. Be quick to stand up for those who are being torn apart by the mouth of gossip. Well, what if it's true, Pastor David? I don't care if it's true. It's none of your business. I don't know who set us on the throne to determine that it is our duty to sit around and talk about people, but God never commanded us to do that. So we must confront the gossip. We must conceal the guilty. This does not mean that we condone sin. It's not what it means. It means that we do not go out and publicly tell other people's sin that they're guilty of, because I want to tell you something, friend, except by the grace of God, there go you. If you knew how bad of a person I was, you would never let me stand behind this pulpit. But if I knew how bad of a person you were, I wouldn't want to stand up here and preach to you. Look out. Why do you think our motto is imperfect people serving a perfect God? We're all sinners, all of us. Some of us have tempers, some of us have, problems with addiction that we face. Some of us have doubts about our salvation. Some of us have fears about our children. We all have problems. It's not for us to stand up and say, I saw him do this and this and this. I was talking to a lady the other day, not too long ago, and we were talking about going to jail, going to prison. And I confessed something to that person in that conversation, and I'll confess it to you. I could have been in jail or prison many times over. You know the difference between me and some of my cousins that are in jail right now? I just never got caught. That's the truth. I don't know who's preaching, but he sounded good. I just never got caught. We could all say that. It's not that we conceal sin to try and hide someone, to try to protect them. It's because we're all imperfect. It's not for me to stand and start rambling off your sins. It's not for you to stand and start rambling off at each other's sins. It's not something that we should do as Christians, because you know what? We all live under grace. We all require mercy and forgiveness from God, all of us. So we should not go out and tell everything we know. Confront the gossip. Conceal the guilty. Not that we condone it, but it's not our place to go and put it out there for the entire world to know. You see, God tells us how to deal with this matter. Look with me in 1 Peter 4 and verse 8. What does God use Peter's hand to write? 1 Peter 4 and verse 8 says this. And above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves. Why? For charity shall cover the multitude of sins. You know what? I'm going to let y'all in a little secret. I knew when I took this job that y'all was a bunch of sinners. You know how I knew? Because I'm a big sinner too. Everybody I've ever met's a big sinner. All of us. None of us are perfect. But Peter says that we should love each other in spite of the fact that we're sinners. Why should we do that? Because God loves us in spite of the fact that we're sinners. If anyone has the right to stand upon the mountaintop and proclaim all of our sins to the world, it's God in heaven. And you know what? He doesn't do it. You see, it is a terrible thing to bear false witness against someone. And it's a terrible thing, too, to know something in confidence and tell it, even though it's true. God does not want us to do that. Here is an easy thing that I found. Here's a good practice for living when it comes to making sure that you are not tearing down someone's reputation. You have to think before you speak. Think. T, 1, is it true? Is it true? 2, will it help? Well, it's true, but is it helping? No. Then the answer is don't say it. Is it true? Will it help? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Think. If we think before we speak, we will not be guilty of this sin of bearing false witness against our neighbor. Is it true? Yes, it's true, Pastor David. Will it help? No, it's not going to help anybody. Then don't say anything. Will it help? Yes, it could. Is it inspiring? No, then don't say anything. Is it true? Yes. Will it help? Yes. Is it inspiring? Yes. Is it necessary? No. Then shut up. It's not necessary. Shut up. Is it kind? Typically, the things we want to tell aren't kind, are they? If you want to see the truth of the matter, and I'm not telling anyone to do this, but it's a social experiment that has been done in the past. There were some sociologists that went into a town. One went on this side of town and told a lie on someone that was bad, terrible. One went over to this side of town and told a lie on someone that was good. And then they waited. At the end of the week, you know how many people knew the bad lie? 96% of the people in town had heard that one form or the other. You know how many had heard the good lie? 10%. Well, I'm just saying, if it ain't bad, we usually don't want to hear it. Why do you think the news is so depressing? So think before we speak. If what you have to say fails in any of these categories, then it is pretty safe to say that you would be better off to not use your tongue to damage someone. A good habit to fall into is that of saying nothing about anyone unless it is good. My mama always told me, if you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. Well, actually, first she said, if you might as well say it as think it. That was a mistake. Then she taught me the second rule. If you ain't got anything good to say, then don't say anything at all. Are we guilty of this? Yes, all of us are in some form or fashion. We've all done this before. We've all failed in this commandment. We've all done it. It is not that we expect to have perfect life, because we never will. But the thing is that we learn from our mistakes, and we learn to manage our tongue in a manner that is pleasing to God. It's not that we haven't failed, and it's not that we won't fail again, but the thing is, we should try to do better the next time. You have to remember, reputation is a valuable possession. Reputation can be vandalized publicly, and reputations should be vigorously protected. Look back with me in our text. God said it best in Exodus. God said it best in Exodus 20 and verse 16. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. We should love each other, because we all deserve hell. We all deserve punishment. We all deserve the worst parts of the Bible. But a God in love and mercy and grace, He gives us salvation. Should we not give other people the same courtesy that God gives us? Grace and love. Every head bowed and every eye closed. I like the Ten Commandments, and